Last video I asked people what their first anime was, and one name stuck out the most by far. The first harem anime of many, Sekirei, which until that video I have never heard of. Over and over and over, Sekirei, and a Pokemon apparently. And honestly, after looking into Sekirei and watching it myself after hearing about it, it's not really a coincidence it was that many people's first. It is the quintessential harem anime. Oblivious MC, check. Girls which are kind of similar but different enough to still be interesting, check. Sekirei, my beloved, best girl. And of course, trash a lolly bait, check. Now, a quick bit of context for those who may have not seen it, like myself. Sekirei takes place in just a normal modern city, except there are superpowered women called Sekirei, imagine, who need to bond with a human partner called Ashikibe to use their full power. I like to call this plot trope honey. This plot purely exists so the harem stuff can take place, while High School DXD, for example, the plot exists outside of the bonds of the harem trope. So of course, in each anime fashion, to use their abilities, they gotta get real close to that main character, like real close. Closer than that plane most of those towers. And yes, it usually involves kissing, among other things, because this is still anime after all. The main character Minato accidentally bonds with one of the strongest Sekirei alive, and gets dragged into the Sekirei plan, which is just a giant battle royale where bonded pairs are forced to fight each other. This plot is used to justify fights, fan service, and the growing harem. And despite this not extremely deep writing, it's still pretty damn enjoyable. It does the job of a harem anime. Now, to understand Sekirei, you have to go back to like late 2000s anime internet, back when anime didn't really come with any sort of warning label or genre, or you couldn't find it on TikTok. You just kind of had to click through things with no prior knowledge, and hopefully it was good. Back when streaming sites looked as if you were just one click away from finding either hot milfs in your area or your PC becoming a bomb. And Sekirei between all this was perfectly positioned because it looked pretty damn cool from the outside. Clean art, action shots, pretty cool character designs all things considered. You could tell yourself, I am watching this for the plot. Though no one is believing that if they also know what it is. That said, this was kinda released when the internet was still building itself, so you didn't really know what you were getting into right off the bat. Like a lot of early harem anime, it disguised itself quite well. Just until you watch it, you think, oh my god, cool fighting scenes, pretty attractive characters, and then bam, fanservice harem, you're just kind of sucked into this gateway, which a lot of you were, and Sekirei was no exception to this. Even if you weren't looking for a harem anime, Sekirei had cool fights, pretty good animation, and of course, even outside of the ecchi aspect, the character designs were kind of hot. They did their job well. So I don't think it was a big coincidence for it to be everyone's first. It was everything people think they hear when they hear the term harem anime. And hey, it was good, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed watching it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty biased. I still find High School DXD like the pretty leagues above, like Faker to like Overwatch esports. But hey, I understand why so many people still cling to it. Sekirei was enjoyable for what it was. Like anyone's first of anything, it tends to stick with you, especially if it was a really enjoyable or tragic experience. It didn't need to be amazing. Sekirei fits that perfect harem enjoyability of, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but there's enough meat that it doesn't get boring after just, 1 or 2 episodes. And it's only 12 episodes long, so it doesn't, stretch itself out either. And, of course, like most harem anime, there's a bunch of OVAs and stuff, but I didn't watch those. Now, back then, Sekirei kind of needed to stand out, and the stars aligned just for it to be the perfect starting anime for a lot of people. The characters were simple, like almost borderline aggressive archetypes, but this meant they were relatable. John Harem they weren't offensive, meaning there was a much better chance people were more likely to actually like them than dislike them. For example, the main character, Minato. Minato is a basic design when it comes to main characters, but that also means it's a gateway for self-insert. He was relatable. Black hair, pretty average, You could put yourself in those shoes easily. Gifted academically, yet failed an important test, outcasting him. Then bam, a pretty girl falls on him. Misabi is the battle-hungry, aggressive female lead. The first sort of romantic hook for Minato, and the one that falls on him. Funny enough, Misabi is actually one of the more unique ones when it comes to archetypes and stereotypes. Usually the battle-hungry character is usually the just aggressive tsundere, who doesn't really like the MC at first and, is very standoffish. But Misabi is pretty warm right off the bat. When it comes to battle-hungry, aggressive characters, she's quite different from what I've seen personally. And of course, Tsukimi, my beloved, the pseudo-posh British woman, but the American voice actor just kind of gave up.
Nothing for thee to worry over, just a scratch.
Hey!
Honestly, making it kind of funnier. She speaks in Old English and like the American voice actor tries to slip in some accent, but a lot of the times it kind of just doesn't really come through that much. It's not that it doesn't require much thinking, but most anime doesn't. Why yes, the philosophical text of that time I got reincarnated as a vending machine. You just picked a favorite because there was actually a decent few best girl candidates when it came to Sekirei. You'll never guess mine based on previous statements made. And of course then there's the bond system. Sekirei doesn't really hide how much it wants to get to the ichi aspects. In one episode, Minato goes from possibly being a doctor or a lawyer in his future to bam, a girl falls on him from the fucking sky. Where are we dropping, boys? Minato's crotch, apparently. This is just pure 2000s anime, early wish fulfillment self-insert type anime, and I dig it, because it works perfectly as that. For a lot of people, this was their first ichi anime, their first wait, maybe anime kind of fire moment, and their first sort of, yeah, this genre might be kind of fire. Sekirei wasn't really subtle in its methods, but it certainly made a lot of weebs, a lot of you watching this channel. And sometimes sincerity hits way harder than actual polish. I'd rather take a really enjoyable show over something that's, you know, not interesting, but just a pristine polish, you know. If you polish shit, it's still going to be shit in the end, you know. Now, let's talk about the comparison they made earlier. Sekirei vs Highschool DXD. And no, this is not to say one of them is better than the other. I'm just very biased towards DXD because it was my first harem anime. So, you know, as a big DXD fan, you know, me giving this comparison gives you a pretty good frame of reference. The two are both pretty similar, but also quite different. DXD's plot exists outside of the harem trope, however Sekirei, the plot exists just to fuel the harem trope. This is quite a generational difference though. Sekirei is definitely of its time. It doesn't really do too much that could be deemed offensive or straying from the norms of the time. And it's weird to say this, but DXD takes itself quite a bit more seriously from a plot point of view. While Sekirei mainly focuses on this light-hearted territory when it comes to emotional depths or high stakes, DXD goes full trauma arc at some point. Like how I stumbled into DXD randomly, many of you stumbled into Sekirei. Believe me, I understand why your first harem sticks with you. Have you seen the channel? Welcome. Nobody remembers Sekirei because they thought it was peak storytelling or writing. They remember it because it was charming and even cozy at times. They remember just because they were younger. It was fun, it looks cool, there's good action scenes. It was their first experience kind of thing, so it still sticks with them. To many, this isn't really just, you know, their first anime. This was late nights, you know, making sure your headphones were a little lower, making sure your door was locked. You know, ain't no one coming in during this. It was the first moment you may have realized anime was a little bigger than Dragon Ball Z fights and Naruto or Zangons. Though there was something that's certainly bigger. And because of that, you never forgot. You never forget your first because it kind of just reframes the entire medium for you. First you were like, oh my god, Dragon Ball kind of fire. Then you saw Sekirei and DXD, then we're like, you know what? Yeah, Scoob, I have an idea. Sekirei still just represents a very specific era when anime and the internet was still just finding its place and coming in together. Before everything had to be, you know, self-aware, super deep writing, Sekirei keeps that cozy 2000s era vibe, and that kind of sticks. Ningatsu, who was your best girl? You've kept it secret for quite a while. Just Akemi, obviously, and it's not even close. I am butchering that name, I just know it. So, if you've made it this far, let me ask you something. Yes, you. Was Sekirei your first, or was it, you know, something else? Love Hina, to Love Ru, or Zero Plus Vampire. If I didn't list it, tell me in the comments, and you never know. Judging by the ongoing theme, I could make a video on that one, you know? But yeah, you never forget your first. That's it. If you liked, you know, sub like usual YouTuber stuff. But hey, see ya.